Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. Yesterday I recorded the review for this book, and now I'm recording the review for the episode. Of course, I actually have the book uploaded the same exact night that I'm recording this, so it's Friday. Let's talk about some Goosebumps stuff. Of course, you've already watched the one video before you saw this one. I think it's actually Saturday morning, technically. Anyway, it's about 2 a.m., and when I got home from work, my wife and I had dinner. We had some chicken salad, and we decided we were going to sit down, she would read her book, and I would watch the next to last, technically episode, but kind of not, because I also have one other thing to review after I finish up this. This is the last of the two-parters. Technically, the next thing is a three-parter that I'm about to review to finish off the TV episodes of the series. Anyway, Goosebumps, Stay Out of the Basement is what I'm currently talking about. This is a two-parter, about 45 minutes long in total. I think I've seen this a couple of times in my life, maybe 3 times, maybe once, maybe I rented it back in the day. I mainly grew up on Welcome to Dead House. I watched How I Got My Shrunken Head maybe once or twice. Mainly grew up on Haunted Mask 1, 2, and Night of the Living Dummy 3, Bride of the Living Dummy. Never saw 2 until I became very much older and finally got to see that. But this is the next to last, technically episode, standalone, that I get to review on the channel. I've reviewed every episode, reviewed every single original 62 book at this current point, and after I do this video, I'm going to start going and watching and then recording reviews for Goosebumps Trilogy, which I have here on DVD. I've never seen this, never heard anything much about it aside from it being a technical 3-parter, and I don't know if the 3 episodes tie in together or not. I think they do, but I don't know. It has a Monster Blood 3 cover. Very odd. Anyway, Stay Out of the Basement, the 2-parter, is the Season 1 episodes 11 and 12, and they were released on January 27th, 1996. Wow. I wasn't even 2 years old yet. I've seen this episode a few times, and I really dig it. I may or may not have seen this when I was a kid, as I said, but I have watched it quite a few times, every other year, every couple of years in the recent years. I haven't watched it since I started this channel, so roughly almost 4 years ago, I think, is the last time I saw this, and I remember really digging it. I remember how good it was. And it still holds up. It still holds up. It's one of the really good, high-budget episodes, up there, maybe not as big of a budget, but up there with, like, Night of the Living Dummy 3. It's also directed by the fellow who did, Welcome to Dead House. I'll talk about some of his achievements. William Fruet. I love that guy. Fantastic Goosebumps director. Did a majority of the show and a majority of the episodes that you love and remember, and the majority of what we talk about here on this channel. He was a treasure for the Goosebumps community, and people don't appreciate the guy enough. Now, this, like I said, is Season 1, Episode 11 and 12, January 27th, 1996. I don't really know anybody from the cast. I'll be honest with you. So I want to go ahead and start off, since I don't really have much of a comment about those folks. I do want to kind of jump right into the episode's plot. Essentially, there is a young boy and a young girl, brother and sister, Margaret and Casey, and their mom is about to leave at the very beginning of the episode to go off to take care of their aunt, who is about to have surgery, is very ill. And while she's gone, she basically tells them, hey, I know your dad lost his job recently, but he's going to be down in the basement taking care of his science experiments with plants and whatnot. He's a botanist, by the way, and kind of an oddball botanist on top of that. He's been spending less and less time with the rest of the family, particularly the kids, Margaret and Casey, and the kids are kind of upset about that. They miss their dad, they want to spend more time with him, but his biggest rule in the house is to stay out of the basement. They're not really sure what's up with that. They're not really sure even why he lost his job. For the most part, this is a fairly dedicated adaptation. It has very few changes, very few characters missing, very few character name changes or anything like that. It's very dedicated to the source material, which William Fruet, as I talked about, or Fruit, I just can't get his name down, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I think somebody told me in one comment a long time ago, but that was a long time ago. He did many episodes that you know and love. I'll give you a list of everything he did, pretty much, for the Goosebumps series. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder, Stay Out of the Basement Parts 1 and Part 2, as we're currently talking about. A Night in Terror Tower, Part 1 and Part 2, which is also very good. Werewolf of Fever Swamp, Part 1 and Part 2, really solid stuff. Attack of the Mutant, Part 1 and Part 2, really great. Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes, I personally like it a lot. It's very different from the book, but I like it. Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, same situation, a little bit different, but very good. Haunted Mask, Part 1 and Part 2, which I love dearly. Let's see, Welcome to Dead House Part 1 and Part 2, which is also fantastic. Again, one of the big ones I grew up on that I love deeply. I still have my DVD copy of that. My Best Friend is Invisible, The House of No Return, The Barking Ghost, One Day at Horrorland Part 1 and Part 2, which is also great. The Haunted House game, which is a really solid one. Let's see, Trilogy Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, which also made me kind of decide to go ahead tonight and watch and review those episodes of Trilogy, even though I'll probably be up pretty late. It's going to be worth it, though, because I can't wait. And Deep Trouble Part 1 and Part 2, which, yeah, if you've seen those, you know. Now, one of the things that really starts Casey and Margaret's interest in the basement is that when they go down there at one point to find their dad, they don't go too far in, but they kind of go down and they see plants everywhere. I mean, we're talking up the walls, we're talking, all over the floor, dirt and soil everywhere. But they're also hearing oddball noises from down in that basement. Their dad has been acting very weird. Again, very kind of detached from the family, but also just kind of weird. Almost like he's so invested in something, almost like he's a completely different person. And it's just weird and wild and bizarre. And the episode itself is very focused on those plants down in the basement and Casey and Margaret's interest in that and what's going on there. Because as the episode goes along, or the episodes, it gets more and more bizarre. More things start to happen to make them bring up some questions, want to know what's up with their dad. And I want to say this, I think both of the kid actors did great. I think the mom was fine for the few minutes she's in it. But the big shining light here for me is Judah Katz, who plays Dr. Brewer, the father. It's not very often that with the Goosebumps TV show and the kind of budget they had, it's kind of the situation you had with, like, Friday the 13th as a series. You had to work cheap to be in those movies. You couldn't be like a big celebrity like Andrew McCarthy or like Tom Cruise or something like that. You couldn't be a big budget star. You had to be somebody cheap, right, to be in those movies. And a lot of the time that opened up YouTube performances that just were not the best. They weren't great. They didn't have a real screen presence. You had some folks like Crispin Glover in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, who really stood out and was really fun and just weird and wild. But every once in a while in Goosebumps, you had somebody that, in my personal opinion, deserved a bigger career. This particular man, I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. Is it Judah? Yeah, Judah Katz. I'm so sorry. Judah Katz is phenomenal. I mean, he is so good in this episode. He's genuinely scary. There are moments that he's genuinely frightening because the kids are afraid of him. There is no mom in the picture right now. There's just them and their dad. And it's kind of like a summertime thing, but it doesn't look like a summertime thing, But they're kind of scared of their dad and how he starts to act, how he kind of gets a little angry sometimes. And it's not very often in these shows that you see the adults in here actually bring a really solid performance. A lot of the time in Goosebumps in general, they're kind of put on the background. In this particular episode, Judah Katz, he just brings this performance, man. It's strong. It's really strong because it's not just the anger part. It's not just about him being scary, being the potential villain here, what mysterious thing is surrounding his experiments in the basement. It's not just about all that. What makes him even more interesting to me is that there are moments with just complete compassion where he just takes the kids after they start to get worried and tells them, hey, let's go sit down at the kitchen table, let's talk for a minute, I'll explain what I'm doing down there. There are moments like that involving this actor that really had this humanity that I don't see a lot in Goosebumps, whether it be in the scripts, in the episodes, anything like that. Sometimes it's there and it's wasted. Sometimes it's there and it's ruined by bad music or something. This is such a great performance, and I can't believe people don't talk about it more. Dr. Brewer's already iconic from the character from the book. This actor brought this to life. He is Dr. Brewer when I watch this episode and think about this book or episode or this particular character. He is him. Dr. Brewer is so solid, and I really like his character here. I like the mystery. I like the build-up around him and what he's doing. One thing I do have to complain about with the episode, which I get it. You're going to think it's dumb, but I get it. There's a lot of body horror in the book, particularly in the third act, with some kind of gory tension that takes place towards the finale. And it can't possibly be in this. I mean, there's some body horror in this episode, which is kind of cool. There is some genuinely scary stuff in here that if I had seen this when I was a kid, it would have terrified me. It would have absolutely petrified me. So that's why I don't entirely think that that I saw this when I was a very young kid watching Dummy 3, Haunted Mask 1 and 2, Welcome to Dead House. As frightening as many of those can be, there are parts of this that would have stuck with me the way those did, So I'm fairly certain I didn't see this till I was about a teenager or so. Regardless, it's good. Regardless, it's very effective. One of my favorite things about it is that even though we don't have the gore and we don't have the stuff that was at the end of the original book that this is based on, we have practical effects, which Goosebumps, when it does that, there's a charm there, but just in general, even to this day in 2022, practical effects are just amazing. They're just everything you want for anything. Horror, thrillers, anything. Action movies, if you can flip a car, flip the freaking car. Don't put some CGI computer crap on my screen and expect me to pay for seeing that. I know it's safer, but it sucks, you know? So risk of killing a guy is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so this episode has practical effects for the plants, for anything. And it looks great, pretty much always. There is one scene where a character's wearing a bald cap, and it's awful. Even on VHS. I watched it on a VHS cassette. Does that count as a cassette? I watched it on a VHS tape. And it looked horrible here, as not really blurry. VHS tapes are not the way these 1980s throwback YouTube videos make them look, just so you know. It didn't look like some choppy, skippy line in the middle of the screen type of thing. It wasn't like that. For how solid this looked, how good the practical effects still look on this, that bald cap, man, it stuck out. So, I really don't have much more to say about this. The only other thing I have to think off the top of my head is the music in the actual episode is not a great soundtrack or score or whatever, but it's fine. It works for what this is, that mysterious tone that Goosebumps typically maintains in the episodes. It's kind of that, no real silly music or anything like that. And I'll give it this, with the atmosphere that William Fruit is always able to just build up in general, man, this one has some great tension. And kind of like what I said in my book review for the book it's based on, there's a lot of psychological tension to this episode that really just builds and builds and builds. And it gets more tension-filled as it goes along. And it kind of makes you nervous at times. My wife, who does not care about Goosebumps, she likes my little hobby of it. If you can call it little, there's a lot of books out there and I own all of them. My wife is trying to sit on the couch and read her book. And every once in a while, I would look over and I would catch her looking at the screen and watching this. Goosebumps has its appeal. You know, this is a great example of an episode that could really bring people in. The book itself is a great place to start people for the first time, but if they don't like to read, start them here. Let them watch this. This is a really great place to start off as a Goosebumps fan if you've not seen anything or if you're just kind of new to all of it. I wish there was more praise for Judah Katz. Again, I know I forgot the name in the middle of my video after I had literally just looked at it and had just said it with my name, or with my lips, or my tongue, whatever. I know I had just said it and completely forgot it, but this guy's performance, man, every time I go to watch this episode, as solid as everybody else pretty much is, he is the shining light here on this episode. He really brings it to life, and it's sad when I looked at his IMDb page for this review, there wasn't much that he had done. Even after this, there wasn't. I mean, he had done like 79 different acting jobs, but nothing big name. Nothing really big that he should have been recognized for. It's kind of sad. You know, it's kind of a bummer to me. Anyway, stay out of the basement. What did you guys think about this episode two-parter? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's like in your top 5 or something? A lot of the big budget two-part episodes are the ones that make it into people's like top 5 of their favorites, or even top 10 out of so many episodes. It's up there for me. I don't know if it's even in my top 10. It might be. It might be, but it's a really good one, a really great one even, is what I want to say here. There's really no flaws to it. I really don't have any nitpicks. There's some goofy silliness from the 90s charm that's in this, but it's so watchable. It's so watchable. Every time I watch it, even though I know what's going to happen by the finale, it's so watchable. And yeah, I hate that we couldn't have like the gore and stuff from the end of the book. That's a bummer, I know, but it's TV for children. But it was still great for what it was. Kids, even at the time when this was released, are not going to appreciate this the way we adults who love film and movies, the way we appreciate things and can see how much was put into this. This is a great one. I highly recommend it if you haven't read, or watched in this case, Stay Out of the Basement, and somebody's driving by playing bass on their car. It's time to break out the BB gun. Anyway, I don't shoot at people's cars, I promise. It was a joke. It was a joke, I promise. Anyway, what are your thoughts, guys? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about Stay Out of the Basement Part 1 and Part 2 and the book. Which one do you like more? I think I'm sticking with what I said in my book review. I think I like the book more just because of the finale, and it got a little bit... So this is my analogy for this, right? Like, let's say there's a big steep hill that just kind of drops off when you get to the top of the hill, right? You have to kind of work your way up the top of the hill. You have to be in shape, have to be fit, work hard to get up there. Both the book and this episode are really in shape, really strong. They've made their way up to the top of the hill. But the book goes just over it and falls into a great, great place, right? That analogy might not entirely work, but it goes into a great place that the episode can't cross over that border and jump off the cliff a little bit. It can't do that because of censorship, or just because of children's TV, whatever. But there's some great stuff in this. The book's great. I recommend both. They're both fantastic. They're both for either places you want to start people on Goosebumps. I don't care if it's your nephew or your grandparents. Just anyone you want to put into it to try out Goosebumps. This is a great place to try it. It's a really great one. So if I had to rate this episode, or these episodes, on a 5-star basis, I would hands down give Goosebumps Stay Out of the Basement 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's great. It's very well made. I don't really have any complaints at all. It's probably not going to be people's like favorite. If anybody out there thinks this is their favorite, please put that down below. I would love to know. I really would. But it's not my personal favorite, and like I said, it's why I kind of struggle, because I rate it really high. I really do. And I think it's extremely well made, and I think William Fruit is extremely talented. But do I connect with this as much as I do something like Attack of the Mutant? Probably not. Probably not. I love Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes a lot. I probably like that episode more than I like this, even though this is on the scary side, that's more on the comedic, goofy side. I don't know, Goosebumps hits me in different ways on different days and what kind of mood I'm in and everything else. So, it kind of all boils down to that. So, what are your thoughts, guys, on all this? Put them down below, like I said, 300 times now. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all your support, and I will start reviewing the Trilogy episodes tonight as well. Can't wait to do that, and I hope to get these reviews out to you soon. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. God bless you. Put all your thoughts down below, as usual. Anyway, thank you guys. God bless you. Goodbye.